Morning, folks. This morning's soap is brought to us by Wet the Face. Name of this one here is Into the Mystic. The scent profile will be similar to the scent of Cool Water, and this name of course was inspired by the song itself. Some of the scent that you might pick up off of this soap might be lavender, peppermint, rosemary, orange blossom, jasmine, oakmoss, amber, cedar. There's a whole range of scents there, and there's more to it than just that, but that's what it looks like on the inside. It's a fairly soft soap. Doesn't take much to push your finger inside there. This tub usually will come in with 4 ounces of soap also, which is pretty standard for what Dawn does with the soaps. Got the alum block, no rubber band this morning. We got Stirling's Hazel Black Ice that's mentholated, and going to have the matching aftershave this morning. Also, off camera I'll be using the mix of the Shaven Sailor beard oil and Cremo tea tree mint flavor. And for the shaver of the day, got the standard razor. This one here, I guess you might call it version 1 maybe. I've had this one a while. This one here is it's all made out of aluminum, weighs under 2 ounces. I think it's like 1.7 ounces. 3-piece design, no overhang, standard bar across there. And one of the things that you might notice that's different about this, besides the fact that it's aluminum, it comes in different colors. It comes in this one and in black. But when you go to take it apart, that's where the post is at, and the cap looks like, no, cap and base plate looks like that on the underside. So it's a slightly different design. The newer one that's out now is they say that the head and cap, in other words, when you put it together, that the blade alignment comes easier to get it lined up properly. I've never had an issue with mine, but evidently there might have been a few that maybe the tolerances weren't quite up to speed. Using a Lord Cool blade, this is what it was wrapped in today, just a single wrapper, but this wrapper's pretty thick. And I got it whipped up here in a bowl with a Crazy Badger brush, which is, this color is kind of hard to tell with this lighting, but this is a very deep purple color brush, acrylic if you will. Got it whipped up here in a bowl. Looking pretty good. And it's whipped up just a little on the wet side. It's not quite as wet as I normally would if I was shaving with a shavette or something along those lines. Here's what's left of my cube in order to put a hot towel to the face this morning. And this thing is getting to be kind of hard to hang on to. I think I may have to approach from the small end here. The standard razor has been out for a little while, and they've had their share of bumps in when it comes to manufacturing. At one point in time, I know they were selling some of their seconds pretty inexpensive price. I think in the neighborhood of $35 if I remember right. And those were the ones that were, like I say, they were seconds. They had issues on the manufacturing process. In other words, your alignments might be off. There were those kind of issues. Also, if I remember right, they may have made an adjustment on that post coming out of the handle. I guess there was some reports of some of those posts coming loose. Like I said, I haven't had any trouble out of mine. Mine's been just fine. Been pretty fortunate, I guess. But it is a little bit different design having the post come out of the handle as opposed to coming out of the cap, like we traditionally see on a 3-piece design. So in other words, interchangeable handles with this one here. It could be a bit of a struggle. You'll have to modify that post and figure out how to reset it to get it, also to get it to stay in the cap. And I still don't know that if you're going to be able to swap out handles with it. So if you like swapping out your handles on your shavers, I don't think you can be able to do that with this one. At least not without modifying something. I think the black one is a little bit more than if you go with the, I guess you might say, the raw looking one. The it's not polished, and even though this looks, no, there's no knurling, of course, or anything like that, but be kind of surprised on how easy it is to hang on to it. It's not as slick as it looks, in other words. Aircraft aluminum also, I guess, if that matters to anybody. Yesterday was a very busy day. It was, left the house, went to work, came home, was here just long enough to pick up my son. He had saxophone lesson, straight from the saxophone lesson to the concert, and by the time we got home last night it was 9 o'clock. Long day. Guess if there was a day to sleep in, it would have been today. I have a link down below to Don's website if you're interested in finding the soap. And when I looked last night, late last night, late for me at least, it was in stock, and I think 4 ounces usually runs about $12.95. A little cheaper than, I guess you might say, what you might find standard elsewhere. It's a pretty soft soap. It's a nice one. Don has some pretty nice soaps. He has a, matter of fact, he has a video using this this particular soap. Never had any issues with his soaps, and I guess you might say not performing well. And I don't think you'll ever find one that he makes that doesn't perform up to standard. I mean, if you ever watch one of his videos, he lathers one time and performs his shave, so residual slickness will probably be one of the things that he would, I guess you might say, make darn sure that his soap has. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty darn hard to do the shave that he does when he goes back over using the residual slickness to shave with. If you haven't seen one of his videos shaving, you really ought to watch one. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around how I would be able to get my shave in with one lather, but he manages it. He does it. I mean, does a fantastic job. Today my son is practicing yesterday his lesson for the going to try out for the jazz band. Hope everything goes well. Matter of fact, last night after the concert, pulled up a video with B.B. King in it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's great. B.B. King / it was awesome. I have a little bit of also brought up on YouTube the Glenn Miller. There's I guess you might say giving him a little bit of a sample of the differences of a particular song, how Glenn Miller would play it and how it would sound versus something that I guess you might say a bit more recent from a band of this modern era, I guess you might say. and there is a slight, I say slight, there's a very noticeable difference in between the two. How Glenn Miller's Chattanooga, in other words, would be what I would consider a little on the mellow side compared to the version I had. The version I had was a lot more peppy, bright, maybe even considered a little loud perhaps. Just different versions on how these songs are played. Standards, if you will. Tom, I said, you know, you can hear the period of the time coming out through the music. Just, you know, from days gone back in the 40s, you know, some of those songs are, you know, just a standard. They're classics. They're, when you know, you watch a movie from there, you expect to hear that kind of music. With the one I found on YouTube, I had it for a while, waiting for the right moment for him to listen to it. You can see in the background they had the saxophones. Now with my ears, I don't always pick out different instruments quite as well as he does, but that's good that he's able to pick it out like he can. Like I said, I haven't had any issues with this shaver. I've seen and read some, you know, some of the reports coming back, the reviews on this one, and folks would have issues with it. Sometimes I don't, with the post the way that it is, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. That's how that post looks like on the inside there. I don't over tighten it. I don't try to, you know, overdo it. It's snug. That's all I need to, you know, tighten it up for it to stay together. I've never had any issues with it. It works just fine for me. And then maybe sometimes I wonder if it's more of operator error when these things happen, as opposed to, in other words, they're not indestructible by any means. So you got to take a certain amount of care. Even a standard three-piece shaver, try to over tighten it, you're going to mess up those threads. And there's the blade. A little bit of soap gets up in there, not a whole lot. So as it goes for keeping it clean, it's pretty easy. Inside there, I haven't had any issues with anything getting up in there like soap or anything like that. So it's a, for a three-piece design, which most of them are, it's relatively easy to keep clean. Not an issue at all. It's a pretty nice shaver. I would say it's somewhat efficient. As it goes for blade feel, there is a little bit of a blade feel. The shave is fairly smooth. I've used different blades with this one over time, and I haven't, in other words, haven't found anything where it just, you can tell a huge difference between one blade to the next. I mean, outside of when you go from like a feather to a derby or something like that, but overall it's a fairly smooth shaver. But you do have a bit more blade feel than what, I guess more so than what you would consider some of the milder shavers like a Gillette Tech or you know, like the Star that I shaved with this week. You're definitely going to feel the blade somewhat more, but overall though it's still a very smooth shave. It does not have that aggressive feel, if you will. Don't see very many shaves with it. But at $69 also is something to think about. And I know what you're paying for which is something to keep in mind, is that you're paying for the, basically you're paying for the aluminum, that design. But there are other shavers out there that will be smoother, less expensive, but maybe pretty close on the weight. In other words, Fine's Marvel shaver, that one there, very smooth shaver, cheaper. It's fairly low. I mean, it's not a heavyweight by any means, but kind of get the idea of what I'm saying. That there's a number of other shavers, so you can pay a little bit less and get a smoother shave. You don't have quite that blade feel, if that's a concern. But you can tell. I mean, no weepers, nicks, cuts. It's a very nice shaver. So if you're looking at something that's, needing something that's under 2 ounces and not exactly mild, but maybe just on the medium side of being efficient, that one there works pretty well. I mean, I don't even feel that need to catch that strip that I have running through here. In case you might say, my standard 3-pass shave works just fine with this shaver. If anybody's I guess I better shake it up first. If anybody's wondering about the efficiency of the shave. The Lord Cool blades are Teflon coated also. If you're unfamiliar with this blade, don't see very many shave of the days with this blade either. I don't know if it has anything to do with the packaging or anything like that. You can kind of figure that in some cases that has something to do with somebody's decision to buy something, is the marketing, what you see on the product, will sway a person one way or the other. I mean, all of us fall victim to it at some point in time on how these are marketed. It's kind of like the way I look at it when I'm looking at on the eBay, and you see some, if you've shopped there long enough, you'll see some photos where either they're not showing you something, or the video the picture you're really wanting to see is blurry, like it was done on purpose, like you really didn't look at this before you posted it. And sometimes if you give me good, clear pictures, I can say that's greatly appreciated, and I don't feel like you're trying to hide anything. That's what I've been seeing right there. Took me long enough to figure out where it was at, didn't it? This has a really nice scent. Like I say, this is, you might, when you smell this, you might relate the scent close to cold water, which that's what he's got. I've got it down below. I'll have that linked, so you'll be able to go to the website, and because the scent, in other words, the top, middle, base notes, there's several of them in there that makes up the scent for this soap and aftershave as far as that goes. By the way, this is 3.4 ounces in a glass container, and the restrictor, that's the size of the restrictor. I guess you might say fairly standard size restrictor. It's not real small, but it's not real big either. You have a fairly decent chance of controlling how much flows out of there. Had a really good shave this morning. Hope everybody's doing well. Hopefully you're not quite as busy as I am. Alright, everybody, stay safe and smooth shaves to you.